you can see my name on my screen, Patrick Fitzpatrick. That is my real name. And I use my real name on my books that I write. I'm actually named after my mom's sister, whose name was Patricia. And she said, you should name him or her after me, Patricia or Patrick. And so I found that out later in life, probably because my mom thought that it would scar me to know I was named after a woman. But she was actually my favorite aunt. And so I like that I was named after her. I am a headmaster of a Christian school north of Philadelphia, about 2 hours away from you guys. The name of the school is Plumstead Christian School. It's been around since 1948. I've been the headmaster at Plumstead Christian School for 10 years. Prior to that, I worked at St. David's School in Raleigh, and I had the privilege of hiring your art teacher to be one of our art teachers down there when she and her husband lived in that area. So that's how I know Mrs. Keeney. Mrs. Keeney and I go way back. And Mrs. Keeney, did you ever teach any of my own kids?
I did not.
I forget.
They were in elementary school, and I had 7th through 12th grade.
Gotcha. Okay.
But I did know of
good.
them. I remember them at the talent show.
Yeah, with their ventriloquism.
Yes, I do. Yep.
Well, one of my sons developed a real passion for drawing and art, and he now lives in Singapore. He just finished a 2-year stint as a concept artist for an animation studio. And he actually illustrated one of my other children's books. I think we're going to be talking about the Oxpecker and the Giraffe today, but he illustrated my book, which is named Princess of the Misty Mufu Mountains. It's an adoption story inspired, oh, there it is, inspired by our own adoption as a family of our 5th child. So I'm going to change my background now to show you an art piece that my son recently did. There it is, right there. He does drawings like this just for fun. But he, when he was working for the animation studio, he mostly did landscape art and architecture. I got my start in writing back in college when I fell in love with a girl who eventually became my wife, and she inspired me to write love poems. But love poems don't sell very well, but I started to really enjoy the power of words and telling stories in that way. And so that's why I wrote my children's books. The first one, The Oxpecker and the Giraffe, was actually a poem that I wrote for my biology students. I used to teach science. And so I read that poem to my students, and they said, Mr. Fitzpatrick, that could be a children's book. And so that's where I hadn't even thought about writing children's books, but that's why I started writing children's books. It started with the encouragement from my students. How many of you like to draw animals?
An oxpecker.
Oh yeah, the oxpecker and the giraffe. When I was in 2nd grade, I had a friend who taught me how to draw horses. And so then I was obsessed with horses. I developed kind of a cartoon style of drawing, but never had any art classes. So you guys are blessed, as are my children, I have five children. 2 of them have become artists. The one that's the animation concept artist in Singapore. He's way over in Asia with his family. And then I have another son who studied animation at university and has published 2 books on comic strips. And his books are called Chocolate Waffles Year 1 and Chocolate Waffles Volume 2. His first one he published while in high school. So he decided to do a comic strip every day for a whole year, and he did that without fail. And so that's why it's called Year 1. The second volume, Volume 2, took him 3 or 4 years. He enjoys doing that. He enjoys doing animation, but he decided not to do it as a profession, which is okay. Sometimes art is just for fun. And that's kind of where I am with my writing. I write for fun. I have about 5 or 6 children's books. 2 of them have been published. 4 of them I'm looking for publishers, but I keep writing. And even if I have one book that I published 1 copy of, and I did all the illustrations myself, and I did it as a gift to my 4 boys when they were younger. And I am looking at actually publishing that book with the help of our middle school art students at my school, illustrating all the pages. And if it only sells a few copies, that's fine. I'm not in it for the money. It's just a real fun thing to tell stories. The Oxpecker book was picked up by a real publisher, and that one has sold all over the world. It's in its 6th printing and has sold about 20,000 copies. So that excites me, but that may not be, my other books may not be as successful, but I still write because it's fun. Did someone have a question?
Me.
What's your question?
My question is the giraffe and the oxpecker.
That's pretty cool. So when you read the book, you can actually act it out at home. That's awesome. Zach, did you have a question?
Yes. I also have something that I drew.
Oh, okay. So you're going to show us, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right here it is. It's a P-51 Mustang holding up its landing gear.
Oh my goodness. That would scare the oxpecker and the giraffe, especially if it flew too close. Zach and all of you, really, this is a good example of drawing and telling stories about things you know, right? And things you're passionate about, things you love. And Zach clearly loves jets. Olivia, question?
It's not a question, but yesterday when I listened to your book, I made the oxpecker out of Play-Doh. I still have it.
That's great. It's in the refrigerator.
Yeah. I kept it cold.
You got to be careful or your brother Spencer might think it's food. Very nice. I love it. I should say too that one of my sons didn't develop his passion for art until he was in high school. But another one of my sons, who is actually sitting right next to me, working from home. So I'm sorry, I'm going to brag about you. He decided he wanted to be an illustrator when he was about 5 years old. So from when he was 5 until he was through with college, that was almost a single focus of his. And I remember him looking at his hand once, staring at his hand and he was about 5 or 6 years old, and I said, what are you doing? And he looked up at me and he said, I know how to draw hands now. So he worked on his art and still does. Like I said, it's not his career, but he is often drawing and doing comic strips, which is a real cool blend of art and humor.
Well, thanks so much for meeting up with us today.
Oh yeah, my pleasure. My pleasure. Keep drawing, guys and gals. Well, God bless everybody. I hope you hang in there. Stay safe. All right.
Thank you.
And bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye bye.